You know, the thing about practicing de-escalation for a living, really teaching people how to survive when authority decides you're a problem, is that you develop this deep, cold confidence in your own system. Hands visible, voice calm, comply, survive. It's a firewall. But what happens when that firewall collides with something pure, unadulterated, and angry? What happens when two officers, fueled by assumptions and looking for a target, decide that your composure is just another form of arrogance? That night, driving home through Midtown Charlotte, North Carolina, I found out. And that confrontation, a simple traffic stop that blew up into a $4 million profiling scandal, well, it wasn't just about my rights, it was about proving that the very lessons I taught others could, ironically, save my own life. My name is Marcus Thorne, I'm 42 years old, and I'm a special agent with the FBI, specializing in crisis negotiation. My job is talking people out of doing terrible things, so yeah, I know calm. I have to. But beyond the badge, I'm a black man who grew up knowing that to some officers, your compliance isn't proof of innocence, it's just a challenge. That's why I spent years running workshops, teaching the community, especially young black men, how to navigate those fraught moments. Don't move fast, don't argue, speak clearly, survive the stop. It was my gospel. I never thought I'd be the one living out the final exam. The car I was driving, a late model sedan I'd worked years for, was smooth and quiet. I was wearing a hoodie, because it was a cool fall night, and I was tired, ready for my own driveway. I saw the lights flash behind me, that sudden, urgent blue and red in the rearview mirror, and instantly, the negotiator in me took over. No panic. Pull over smoothly. Signal clearly. Assume nothing. The two officers who approached were Officer Jake Rourke and Officer Keith Dalton. I knew their reputations, at least peripherally. They were the type who patrolled neighborhoods miles from where they lived, fueled by a certain kind of aggressive civic duty that seemed to treat the absence of crime not as a goal, but as a temporary failure to find someone they wanted to be guilty. Rourke was at my door instantly, hand already gripping his sidearm, the immediate escalation I trained people to watch out for. Let's see those hands, boy. Right now. I raised them slowly, palms clearly visible against the dark interior of the car. Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just getting home. Dalton circled the car, shining his blinding flashlight into the backseat, that casual, dismissive inspection that says we already know you're guilty. What's a guy like you doing driving a car like this at this hour? His voice dripped with the disrespect that cuts deeper than any shout. It's my car, officer, I replied, keeping my voice low and level, adhering perfectly to Lesson 1. Dalton scoffed, that short, sharp sound of absolute disbelief. Oh, I'm sure. Stolen or borrowed, which one? Don't waste our time. I knew this was the trap. They weren't looking for a broken taillight, they were fishing. I had to establish credibility, right now. I reached slowly, deliberately, towards my inner jacket pocket where my credentials were. Hey! Rourke barked, grabbing my wrist, his grip surprisingly painful. You move when I say you move. Don't you try me. I breathed deeply, counting to 4, fighting the natural instinct to yank back. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. I was negotiating my own survival with the very people who were supposed to be protecting me. Officer, I said, my voice carefully steady, I'm just getting my identification. I'm a federal agent. Federal what? Dalton snorted from the window. Federal headache is what you are. I held out the leather binder containing my credentials and my FBI badge. Rourke snatched it, not looking at it, but at me. He flipped it open, glanced once at the gold shield, and then, with a contemptuous flick of his wrist, he tossed the whole binder onto the hood of my car like trash. What kind of flea market garbage is this? He hissed, stepping right into my personal space, his face inches from mine. If you were federal, you wouldn't be looking like this. You wouldn't be driving a car like this. The heat of his breath, the casual dismissal of my entire professional identity, the blatant assertion that my appearance was incompatible with my badge, it was the moment the veil dropped entirely. Looking like what, officer? I asked, my calm holding, but the internal temperature rising. You know damn well what, Rourke spat out, ticking off his list of grievances against my existence. A hoodie, a beard, a car you can't afford. You think you're fooling anybody? Call your supervisor, I said finally, the only card I had left that could short-circuit this escalating nonsense. No, Dalton replied, bored now. We ain't wasting our time. Step out of the vehicle. Why? I asked, though I knew the answer. I haven't done anything wrong. Don't play smart with us now, boy, Rourke shot back. They yanked my door open before I could fully react, hauled me out, slapped cuffs on him so tight my wrists burned, and shoved him head first into the cruiser, the metal bars closing with a final, sickening clang. Cuffed, trapped, I watched through the streaked window as the two officers tore through my car like scavengers, hands rummaging through the center console, tossing papers and CDs onto the floor mats. They weren't looking for drugs or guns. They were looking for confirmation of their prejudged narrative. They were looking for something messy, something criminal, something to justify the arrest of the man who dared to challenge their assumptions simply by existing in a nice car. The anger wasn't just heat now. It was a slow, controlled burn, fueling the certainty that every moment of this would be accounted for. The search dragged on, a slow-motion violation of my space, my property, my dignity. I sat there, reciting the articles of the Constitution in my head, focusing on the law to keep the human rage contained. And then, Dalton found it. Well, look at this, he mocked, holding up a small, pink and purple frozen coloring book. My daughter's. She insisted on keeping it in the car so she could draw whenever we ran errands. He flipped it open carelessly, his voice dripping with condescension. Ah, cute. What did you do? Steal this from some kid? That was the breaking point. The insults about my car, my beard, my badge, those were professional. This was personal. They had invaded the one space that defined me outside the job, my fatherhood. That belongs to my daughter, I said sharply, leaning forward against the constraint of the handcuffs, my voice cracking with protective fury. Put it back now. Rourke walked over, laughing, backing his partner up. Your daughter? Sure. More like evidence you grabbed something that wasn't yours. Relax, we know a thief when we see one. Put it back. I repeated, the sound tight, the control finally slipping. Dalton just held the coloring book closer to the window, smirking, enjoying the sight of my composed facade finally cracking. Then, with a final gesture of contemptuous dominance, he tossed the coloring book onto the cold sidewalk like absolute trash. That act, that sheer, unnecessary cruelty toward a child's toy, was the final confirmation. They didn't see an FBI agent. They didn't see a father. They only saw a black man they were determined to break, to humiliate, to shove back into the box they believed he belonged in. Miller muttered something under his breath about me, probably lying about his name. I settled back in the seat, closed my eyes, and took a deep, steadying breath. My mind became the crisis center again. The lesson is over. The documentation starts now. I was surrounded by witnesses, people who had pulled out their phones and were recording the entire fiasco. The truth had cameras. 10 minutes later, the dynamic shifted entirely. A sleek black SUV, the kind driven by supervisors, screeched to a halt. Lieutenant Brenda Harris stepped out, the precinct watch commander. She took one look through the cruiser window, saw me cuffed, and her face went from professional sternness to utter horror. I saw her lips move, whispering something I could almost hear. Please, no. She stormed toward Rourke and Dalton. Why is this man in cuffs? What is the charge? He had a fake badge, Lieutenant, Miller scrambled to explain. Claims he's FBI. Claims, Dalton echoed weakly. Claims. Harris snapped, cutting them off instantly. That's Agent Marcus Thorne. He worked with us on 3 joint task force cases last year. That's a federal agent. The shock hit the 2 officers like a physical wave. They went utterly pale, their arrogance evaporating into immediate, blinding panic. Harris ripped open the cruiser door. Agent Thorne, step out, sir. Uncuff him right now.